you all know too well, I like to putter around in my kitchen and do odd things in here. And one thing I've been interested in for quite some time, but have yet to attempt, is some kind of brewing or winemaking or something of that nature. And I started kind of digging about a week ago into how I could get into this sort of activity, and I ran across mead making. Now, I, of course, always understood what mead was. It's fermented wine and like that. But I didn't realize how easy and inexpensive it actually is to get into this, to try it out. And not only that, it appeals to my ancestral spirit with my Northern European roots to try something like this. Now, mead making's been around for thousands of years, but it typically is equated with the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons, Europeans of 1,000 years ago or so. You often hear about the mead hall and things like that. So I started looking at it, and I started looking at how hard it was to do, and I was like, wow, that seems to be pretty easy. And I started looking at what kind of things I would need to do this, and I was like, wow, that seems fairly inexpensive. And so I spent about $100 buying pieces and parts, putting together the kit I would need to make this happen. And lo and behold, here I am, ready to actually start my first batch of mead. Now, I, as y'all well know, spend a lot of time researching things before I start doing them. So what I want to point out is this video is not necessarily a tutorial, a how-to. It's more like a, hey, share my first experience doing this, and let's see how easy this is together. Now, I spent some time watching videos of a few noted people in the field of mead making, shall we say the elders who are imparting their lore to the rest of us, one of which is Jeremy Zimmerman, who has a book about how to make mead in the ancient ways, naturally. And the other one are the videos of Brian with City Steadings. Now, he and his wife do a lot of different things, but one of the things they do focus on is mead making. So I looked at both of their methodologies for going through this, and a couple of ways appealed to me, in one and a couple in the other. And so I'm kind of doing a mishmash of their approaches, and I'm going to make a basic mead with a TANNIC tea. And the TANNIC tea is made from some organic raisins. Now, what I want to point out is everything needs to be organic, no preservatives. The honey needs to be unfiltered and no preservatives, unpasteurized, pretty natural. Now, the honey I got is probably not the best for doing this. It has been filtered, but it was never pasteurized or anything like that. So it's natural honey. Most of the recipes call for 2 pounds of honey for a gallon of mead. I know Brian had used 3 pounds for his. Now, I have 2 pounds to use, so I'm going to use 2 pounds, and we'll see how it turns out. Now, of course, the interesting thing about this experimentation, and that's kind of why I'm so drawn to this, is the mad scientist-y feel of it, is, it's whatever you come up with at the end is fine, as long as it tastes good, right? So I am trying one of their, sort of an aggregation of their approaches. This first batch will be pretty basic, and then I'll start to branch out as I do more. And of course, you don't see the results for many months. So, that's part of the interest too. There's a mystery about it and a surprise at the end. Hopefully a good one. So I started out by washing the items I'm going to use, and I have them all being sanitized right now in Star San. I've got a little thing of Star San. I didn't want to invest in large quantities of things, being that I'm just experimenting with this. So I have the Star San, and I'm sanitizing my stuff. And we're going to next go ahead and brew up the TANNIC tea. Now, what I'm going to make this from is a handful of organic raisins. Again, no preservatives. The skin of half of an orange, and a black tea. Now I've got Earl Grey tea here that I'm going to be using. So let's get started with that, all right? All right, so we're boiling up our TANNIC tea. It's going to boil for 10 minutes. All right, the tea is steeping, so we're going to go ahead and prepare the initial load up of the honey and water. Now, I've had my honey sitting in the hot sterilization bath, not that it needs to be sterilized, it just was hot water, and softening up for this entire time. So we're going to go ahead and pour that into our crock. Now, this is one of the differences between Brian's approach and Jeremy's approach that I'm taking liberties with. The crock approach was Jeremy Zimmerman's approach, and that is based on the fact that you want to have a wide-mouthed container. Now, oftentimes you'll see people, and the way Brian does it is through a jug with a bung and an airlock. All right, let's get started on that. First, the honey. Now I'm using raw wildflower honey. It is filtered, but it is not pasteurized, no preservatives, nothing like that. As a matter of fact, it is a preservative. Let's aerate this initial mixture here. All right, I feel like the tea is cool enough at least to put in the honey. I mean, it's usually maybe around 100 degrees at this moment. Not very hot at all. And we'll put it in here and it'll cool more. We're not putting in the yeast until the last minute. All right, so I think the temperature is okay on this. I like the quantity we have in here. I think I'm going to mix this one more time. Then I'm going to put the yeast in, mix it again. Then I'm going to put the cheesecloth and the strap-on top, and I guess let it start to ferment. Hopefully by, I don't know, sometime this evening, we'll see some activity in the fermentation area. Yeah, I guess we're almost done with this very first phase. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm not going to share this with you over the next 48 hours. I'm going to stir it tonight, and I'm going to stir it twice tomorrow, and then I will put it in a nice, safe, dark place to ferment for several weeks. Now we'll be taking it out probably weekly and doing a hydrometer test on it just to see how it's going. So we're looking at this scale here. All right, so I'm seeing 0.062. All right, so last night I came back in and I was looking at the must, and there was no activity as far as the yeast goes, and so I was understandably concerned. And so I went back and watched a few videos and read the instructions again on the kit, and it said to just pour the whole packet of yeast into the must. And I had not done that. I had followed the instructions and just put 1 teaspoon of the yeast. And it probably would have taken and bloomed and done its thing over time, but I was feeling like that I was failing in some way. So I followed the instructions to pour the whole packet in there and look at the results. What I had noted in previous instructions was to stir it a couple of times a day for the first 48 hours and then put it away. So I'm going to stir it again, and then I will stir it again one more time tonight, and then I'm going to put it in my brewing area that I'm going to create. All right, how's it going? It's been a week since we created this mead that we're attempting to ferment. My first week of being a fermenter. And I learned a lot of things over that week. First of which is doing things the way the Vikings did it is not necessarily a good thing or an easy thing. I had initially attempted to start fermenting this in a 1 gallon crock with a large open lid, opening, that's what crocks are. And I found that there was a lot of challenges for doing it that way. First of all, I couldn't actually see the liquid to really get a feel of whether or not it was fermenting. Plus, I didn't know what that looked like because I'd never done it before. So I kept looking at it and I let it sit overnight, and I had that cheesecloth over the top and stirred it the first 2 days a lot. By the way, I also learned that stirring it with something that was not meant to be put in water and stirred like that is not a good thing. So that's been put away, and I have a degassing wand coming tomorrow that I'm going to be using to stir from now on. But I've learned a lot this week. So after letting it go for a couple of days in the crock and doing my best to get a feel for it. Oh, I did on the second day. I didn't feel like anything was happening with just the natural sugars in there, but I didn't know what I was looking for. Didn't have any head, didn't have any bubbles on it. So I did drop a little bit of yeast food in there, yeast nutrient, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon, and the cap on there, and it was really bubbling loudly. I could hear it. It's a beautiful sound. But I really was having trouble seeing it to understand what was going on. And so on the third day, I finally decided I'm going to put this in a standard 1 gallon carboy jug. So here's a look at how hard it was fermenting at one point. It was super exciting. It was bubbling so hard, and I was super excited watching it and seeing the little bubbles coming out of the airlock and all that. So I found that very validating and entertaining. Loved to see it, and it fermented really hard for about 4 or 5 days. And then yesterday, which is a week since I created this, it really tapered off and is, as you see now, still bubbling, but very slightly. And so I'm just curious what's going on. Is it stalling? I don't know, but we're going to take a hydrometer reading here, and we'll share that with you, and see what's going on. Clearly, it's still bubbling some. It's just slow, so it's still fermenting, but I don't know how long it's supposed to take to complete the process. But we're going to sterilize this column. That way we can pour the mead back in because I don't have a lot. And we're going to take a hydrometer reading and see what's up with that. So let's do that now. You can really smell the alcohol. Now my starting specific gravity was 1062, so hopefully the way it smells, clearly it's changed some of this. So let's see what we get. Looks like it's at like 1020, which means technically it's really done its job. So I guess I shouldn't feel like just because it's not bubbling as much that it hasn't fermented. It certainly smells like alcohol. No, it's right at like 1. So I mean, it's at 1. I mean, does that mean it's done? This is me rhetorically asking the mead gods. Alright, as I've been saying, to put it pretty clear, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is my first time through. But apparently what I'm doing seems to be working somewhat now. I took my second specific gravity reading this week. It's been about 8 days after I originally put this together, and it had been fermenting all week pretty hard, and I was pretty happy about that. But then it started slowing down after about 8 days, 7 days. And I started getting concerned. Was it stalling? I don't know. So I took a specific gravity measurement, and it started out at 1062. The measurement after 8 days was at 1. So I calculated that out to be 8.1% alcohol by volume. So I don't feel terrible about that, being a first time through. But I'm wondering if I can't get a little more out of this. And one of the things I haven't done a lot of is aerating this. I've seen a lot of different advice. Aerate it a lot. Don't aerate it at all. I don't know who to believe. So I'm just at this point doing what I feel is right. And right now I feel like I want to degas this, stir up the sediment that's forming in the bottom. Is that flocculation? Is that what that's called? Maybe so. So stir it up, get some of the live yeast working, and then let it settle down. And once it settles, it should be another week. I'll take another gravity reading. That'll be the next section of this you see. I'll take another gravity reading and see what I get. If it's pretty much stopped, or if it has advanced some, I'll leave it for a few more days and take another reading. But I just feel like I need to do something to boost this just a little bit. I don't think 8.1 has reached its full potential. So let's do a little sterilization here. I have a degassing wand. We're going to hook that up here. We're going to see how this works. I don't know. And see what happens. See if that doesn't help anything. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here at this point. But, it's interesting. A lot of this is experimentation. A lot of people have good advice. There's a lot of conflicting advice. So I'm just going to let's put it this way. I'm pretty sure this won't hurt anything. So let's give it a try and see if it doesn't help something. All right? Let's do it. I got it stirred. I don't know that I got it aerated. Anyway, maybe we'll have some deflocculation. I don't know if that's a thing. But we do have all the sediment stirred up. So we're going to let this sit. And we'll take a reading here once it settles again. Maybe by this coming weekend. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Anyway, we'll see you later. All right, how's it going? It's been 2 weeks now. It's kind of bubbling just a little bit still, but I think it's pretty much done. I think it's come time to do a final measurement, to go ahead and rack this and to stabilize it, and then put it away and see what happens. Today is August 1st. This has been going for 2 weeks as of today. We're going to take one final hydrometer measurement. We'll record that and we'll give what we predict to be the alcohol content. I don't think this is going to be very good. I only started with 2 gallons of honey for this, 2 pounds of honey for this gallon. So I think I started light to begin with, but I think it's good for a first attempt. So let's go ahead and take our measurement, and then we will rack it. All right. Try not to create any bubbles.
I don't know that one.
Smells great. So it looks like 0.998. We will do the calculation here in just a minute. Matter of fact, I'll just put it below right here of what I predict the alcohol will be. 0.998. All right. Well, Well, let's put this back. So it looks like we did get some additional fermentation with the aeration and all that. And as I said, it's been bubbling, very slightly over the last few days. But I think it's time to make it stop. And we're going to rack it, like I said, and stabilize it. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got this table up here. We're going to set this on, hopefully. Set it towards the back. All right, well, let's rack this. This will be my first time racking something, so it may look awkward and crazy, and it probably is, but here we go. Okay, I don't want to get any of that silt, so let's. I got a little bit in there. And we're going to stop the fermentation with some potassium sorbate. Now I've got this potassium sorbate here, half a teaspoon for a gallon. It's a little less than a gallon. But we're going to, this is called stabilizing. We're going to put this in. Stir it in, and then we will put this away for a couple of months. We won't do anything to it. So potassium sorbate, just a little less than a half teaspoon, since it's less than half a gallon. So we'll put that in. And I'm going to cap it with this silicone breathable bung here. It's almost a little too big for a gallon, but it works perfectly. And I'm going to mark on this the date of racking, which is today, August 1st, with a grease pencil, so I don't forget. And there we have it. We've got a racked and stabilized mead. I've done the calculations already. So we're going to have 8.4% alcohol by volume. That is 1.062 minus 0.998 times 131.25. Gives us 8.4% alcohol by volume. We're going to put this away. Thanks for, I don't need to do a sign off because we're coming back. All right. How's it going? It's been about 6 weeks since I created this mead right here. You've been following this process. I started out knowing absolutely nothing. I've learned quite a bit in the last 6 weeks. A lot of reading going on. As you can see, it's clarified very much. We stabilized this about 2 weeks ago. Now I don't have the means to cold crash this, so we used potassium sorbate to stop the actual fermentation process. But now we're getting to the point where we're wanting to taste it, and I know that the gravity on this was below 1, so it's going to be very, very dry. And what we know from that is that we're going to want to back sweeten this. So to avoid a re-fermentation of this, I want to go ahead and add a little bit of this potassium metabisulfite. Now I've got it in these Camden pills, and it says it likes it to be ground up, so I got myself this little pestle and mortar. I'm going to grind this up, and we're going to put the potassium metabisulfite into this. That'll basically kill everything that's in there. Then we're going to stir it, then we're going to let it sit for a couple of days, and then Sunday, in 2 days, we're going to go ahead and taste it. So what'll happen is we'll pour ourselves a little bit into a cup, a known amount, and we will add in a little bit at a time of the sweetener. That way we'll know the ratio to add into the main mix. We'll put it in there, and then we're going to let it sit for another couple of weeks. And then we're going to go ahead and bottle it. So we're pretty excited. We're only just a little over 2 weeks away from bottling. Let's go ahead and add in the potassium metabisulfite, and the next time you'll see us, we'll be tasting it. Oh, it smells amazing. All right, the potassium metabisulfite crushes super easy. Also, just to be known, I did sterilize this mortar and pestle before I used it, so this is all clean stuff. All right, we'll just drop it in through there. Should be easy peasy. Okay, so we're just going to give it a quick stir. We just want to get the metabisulfite mixed in. Just easy peasy. Don't want to stir up any of the sediment. Now, we're going to recap this. We're going to put it away. We're going to let it sit for 2 days, and we're going to taste it. Then we're going to back sweeten it. That's the plan. All right, let's put it away, and we'll see you here in a couple of days. All right, it's been a couple more days. This mead was originally crafted on 7/18, July 18th. It was finished fermenting after 2 weeks. Now, we'd only put 2 gallons of honey in to start with, so this was our first chance, our first attempt. We didn't know any better. So anyway, I have stabilized this several weeks ago. Also, I have put in some potassium metabisulfite because we're going to rack this off for the second time, and then we're going to back sweeten it. So it's totally stabilized and it's not going to fire back up. I know it's very dry because it was under the 1.0 mark when we did our last hydrometer reading. So let's go ahead and do this second racking, and then we will taste it and back sweeten it to taste.
Perfect.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to siphon off a little bit of this into a cup for tasting. And then we're going to siphon exactly a half a cup out and then mix in a half a teaspoon at a time of our natural flavoring here until we get the ratio we want, and then we'll be able to do a little bit of math and know how much we need to put in here. And once we put that in the actual mead, we'll seal it up for 2 weeks. Okay, so let us get a tasting cup. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little bit in here for an initial taste. All right. So, you want to be the first one to taste?
Yes, please. And so this is
just
unadulterated. Okay. Not very sweet at all.
No, it
needs to be sweeter, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
All that's why we have this to.
Ooh, the aftertaste. The aftertaste is kind of like a wheaty beer.
All right.
It's good. It was good aftertaste.
It's very dry.
Tell me, do you taste the wheaty?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. It's very dry. It's not very sweet at all. So that's what we expected. So we're going to take this half cup of the mead and we're going to mix in a half a teaspoon at a time of the natural flavors until we get enough to where we're happy with the taste, and then we're going to know the ratio to put into the whole shooting match. So let's go ahead and fill this cup. All right, half teaspoon of honey, and maybe I'm going to do a quarter of this, so a quarter teaspoon of honey. Back sweetened with just a little bit of honey.
Okay.
This is more like what it's supposed to taste like, though.
It still seems pretty dry, don't you think?
But it's gonna be. But we're just trying to give it a little bit of sweeten back. I like it with. I think this is a good ratio
With
for
the honey?
me.
Okay.
Probably gonna use some of that. So I've got to go calculate the amount of honey to put in here now to back sweeten it. We just like a little bit. We like it. It's still pretty dry, but it's got a little taste of sweetness to it that we like. All right, 1 1/4 cups. All right, so we have back sweetened our mead. I'm gonna bottle this. I'm gonna cap this with a silicone bung, and we're gonna let it sit for a week. If we let it sit for a week, that will be the 2-month mark for this. So we'll let it sit for a week. We'll bottle it next week. I'm gonna stir this with my degassing wand really quickly, and then we will cap it off. And then we'll see you next week for the bottling. Meantime, it's pretty good. I kind of like it. How's it going? It's been 2 months and 2 days since we created our first mead. We have fermented it. We have racked it. We've stabilized it. We have let it sit and clarify. Today, we're going to bottle it and finish the process. It's a super exciting day. I've been looking forward to it and planning for it. I have these bottles here that I have sanitized. They're ready to go. I have corks for them. And on top of those, I have these heat shrink I guess they're bottle toppers. And I have made labels. I know, I'm a big old nerd. It's like having your first child. You want to do all the things. So today we're going to bottle this almost gallon into 375 milliliter bottles. And we're going to seal them up and label them. So let's go ahead and do that. Just know we've already sanitized everything we're working with. The bottles, the corks, the siphon pump, the bottling wand, everything's been sanitized. So the next thing you'll see me doing is bottling it. So excited. All right, 9 bottles out of that gallon. Let me get cleaned up here, and we will get started on the next part of the process, which will be putting the caps on. All right, now for our next step, now that the mead has been bottled, is we're going to put these caps on. Now these caps are heat shrink, so we have a single cap that'll go over the top, and then we will use our heat gun to shrink this material over the bottle. So let's go ahead and see how this works out. So here we have the bottle, and we have the heat gun. That is amazing. So what I did for getting ready for labeling is I went out and I bought this label wizard. Now what this does is allows you to set the bottle in here, put the label on this little thing here. It's got a measurement so you know how far up the bottle you want to put the labels. And then it enables you to actually easily and straightly put the labels on each one. So we're going to check that out right now. All right, so the way this works is, so I have this rack, and I'm able to measure where I want this label to go from the bottom of the bottle. And what I do is I put the label right on this black strip here, and then I can just turn the bottle and it's going to the label, put the label on straightly. So let's see how this goes for the first try. All right, so I'm going to put the label on the black strip. And it's on straight there. Now I'll put the bottle in. Now, theoretically, these should go on straight. So we'll push the label on, and we turn it. And there we have it. Now, of course, we do need to push out any bubbles that may be there, and that's fine. But it is straight. And that was what we were going for. All right, as far as our labeling goes, we've also included a sheet of oval labels to go on the gold cap. Basically, it's got my initial. On the left side, it's got the date of bottling. On the right side, it has the alcohol by volume content. So we're going to put these on next and use the same device for that. It looks like it's going to be okay. That one didn't go on very straight, but it was a good attempt. Let's try it again. And there we have it. Our first batch, 8.4%. It's not bad for a first try. I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully we'll see how the next batch comes out. That's going to be the one that's going to really see how well we're doing, because we took all the lessons we learned from this batch and we'll apply it there. So, all right, well, that wraps it up. That is my adventure in this first episode of my Mead diary. Hopefully you stayed around for the whole thing. If you did, good on you. But I think we're going to have to put one of these in the fridge and give it a try here in a little bit. All right, guys. Thanks for coming by and sharing this time with me. And I'll have another one for you here in, I guess, a couple of months maybe, when this next batch is ready, closer to Christmas. All right, we'll see you later.